I'm truly honored to represent India on this global stage. I'm Sanjeev Chopra, Secretary to the Government of India, Department of Food and Public Distribution. The department I lead carries one of the most fundamental responsibilities of our nation, ensuring that its people have access to food. Every single month, the Government of India ensures food security to 835 million people. 835 million. That's not a projection. That is not a policy aspiration. That is a legal guarantee. Over the last few years, we have co-created Anna Chakra with a wide variety of stakeholders and have begun to demonstrate what becomes possible when science is applied to public service at full scale. We are already seeing measurable gains, annual logistics savings of over 2.5 billion rupees, stronger planning discipline, and a movement system that is becoming more efficient, more transparent, and more accountable. But we do not see this as an endpoint. We see it as an extremely strong foundation to make an even greater impact. And to do that, you must strengthen the system across its full diversity, convince, capacitate, and collaborate with multiple types of stakeholders. India's public distribution system operates through state networks, but it is supervised at the federal level to ensure nationwide accountability, consistency, and food security at scale. In a public system, the measure of progress is sustained institutional capacity, and that is what makes this work uniquely challenging. Bringing about change in a public system is fundamentally different from a private system. It must succeed across many stakeholders, multiple governments, departments, agencies, and field level users, each with their own mandates, constraints, and accountability structures. And it must remain fair at all times. It must remain stable, and it must work without disruption. Because this is not a system you can pause to redesign, disruption here means disrupting food for millions. India's position is clear. Governance in the 21st century must be data-driven and evidence-based. It must integrate science into public policy, not in theory, but in implementation. And it must strengthen essential systems without destabilizing the people who rely on them. Now, how do you optimize a system of this size while it is still running? To answer that, let's step into the lifeline itself.
India, a country of immense scale and even greater diversity. Every few hundred miles, the land changes. So do its climates, communities, infrastructures, and ways of life. Deserts give way to coastlines. Plains rise into mountains. Across this vast landscape, no two regions function in quite the same way.
We take great pride in the vibrancy and richness of India's cultures, which is shaped by our vast diversity, but it also makes national governance deeply complex. And when it comes to food security, that responsibility has to hold across every state, every district, every last mile.
At the heart of this diversity is India's public distribution system, one of the largest public food supply chains in the world. Anchored in the National Food Security Act 2013, it legally guarantees food security to 835 million people across the country, more than the population of Europe and even North America. Every month, about 5 million metric tons of food grain move through a vast network of warehouses and over 500,000 community distribution centers called fair price shops. On an average, food grains in our country travel a total distance of 16.87 million kilometers every month. That monthly volume of grain, when put into a single stack, it would exceed the height of Mount Everest. These fair price shops are the last mile stores of the public distribution system, the citizen facing point where entitlement becomes access and policy becomes lived reality. To sustain the system, the country spends approximately 2.27 trillion rupees annually on food subsidies, ensuring affordability and accessibility for millions. A nationwide warehouse capacity of around 108 million metric tons supports this vast movement and storage, forming the backbone of India's food security infrastructure.
So for everyone in this area, this is the place where they come to get their ration. If the food does not arrive here on time, it creates a serious problem. Women, children, elderly people, even entire families are relying on us.
Which is why this system is measured not only by how much grain it moves, but also whether it reaches the last mile on time.
This is not simply a logistics exercise. It is a public system of national consequence, the lifeline of our country. For millions of citizens, it is the difference between going hungry or getting food for their families.
But planning grain movement across India is not one uniform national exercise. India is a federal democracy made up of states and union territories that each operate their own administrative systems and are responsible for planning and managing food distribution within their own territories. That scale is continental.
Over the years, each state system has evolved differently. In some, grain moves through mills and warehouses before reaching fair price shops. In others, the structure works differently. Administrative rules vary as well, making planning a constantly shifting exercise rather than a standardized process. For a long time, much of this planning depended on manual systems, spreadsheets, fragmented datasets, and institutional knowledge built up over years.
That resulted in longer distances, fragmented visibility, limited transparency in movement logic, and no optimization framework. At this scale, even small inefficiencies multiplied into much larger national complexities. But the deeper challenge was this: the system was always running. It could not be paused or halted for experimentation. Every second, somewhere in India, grain was being stored, loaded, moved, or distributed. Food still had to reach people. And so the question that emerged was, how do you transform a system that cannot stop?
What this demanded was not an isolated adjustment, but a fundamentally new way of seeing the network, one that could work across state realities, protect the last mile, and improve performance without ever interrupting the lifeline itself. That is the need from which Anna Chakra emerged.
The system had too many variables, too many moving parts, and too much at stake. We needed expertise to build a solution that was not only sound in theory, but workable in practice. And across states and institutions, change could only come through trust, collaboration, and very careful execution.
And so a tripartite collaboration took shape. The Department of Food and Public Distribution took on the responsibility of driving a transformation of this mammoth scale as the national leader. The World Food Programme brought food systems expertise to shape the problem from field realities. And Indian Institute of Technology Delhi partnered as the analytical engine, translating that complexity into a working optimization framework. Together, the three built the foundation on which Anna Chakra would be created.
I am Ankit Sood, Head of Social Protection and Supply Chain at the United Nations World Food Programme in India. The journey of optimizing India's public distribution system began in 2018 with a pilot in a single district of Orissa. From there, it expanded across multiple states, and what we saw was not just improvement, but the possibility of transformation. From a food systems perspective, the challenge here was never only about scale. It was about responsibility. Because this is not an abstract network, it's a living public lifeline. Month after month, it delivers. And when a lifeline is disrupted, the impact is immediate, especially at the last mile. Across the world, food security is often framed as a production problem. But in many contexts, the real challenge lies in logistics. It is about ensuring that food moves with reliability, with predictability, and on time through complex systems shaped by geography, infrastructure, and institutions. And that brings us to the most important point. Before you can optimize a system like this, you must accept what cannot be compromised, the non negotiables that protect continuity, execution, and the trust on the ground. And that is the next chapter of this story.
Anna Chakra began to take shape as an operations research driven optimization framework built for a live public system. The first step was to make the public distribution system visible as an analytical network, a structured system of nodes, capacities, demands, and constraints. Warehouses, fair price shops, districts, and supply links all had to be translated into decision ready form.
Now, before optimization, the first task was to clean, standardize, and validate the information, given that the data was fragmented across manual processes, spreadsheets, and disconnected datasets.
Unless the solution takes into cognizance real constraints, you cannot implement it. The constraints that mattered most came from the last mile. Fair price shops cannot manage complicated sourcing, so Anna Chakra had to enforce single source requirements. One fair price shop, one supplying warehouse, without splitting commodities or quantities across multiple sources.
In food distribution system, the last mile is crucial as it decides whether a plan succeeds or fails. But what made this even more challenging was that Anna Chakra had to work across multiple governments, departments, districts, and user groups. So the solution had to protect execution on the ground while still being workable across stakeholders.
For us in the state, continuity of operations was non-negotiable. Any new system had to work without affecting the regular movement of food grains.
This is where the Department of Food and Public Distribution's role became central. Keeping the system running while introducing change required national coordination, ensuring that technical innovation could move hand in hand with governance.
States had to be brought on board, concerns had to be heard, confidence had to be built. That was necessary for implementation.
While the Department of Food and Public Distribution led nationwide oversight, World Food Programme and Indian Institute of Technology, Delhi, played critical roles through sustained engagement, technical refinement, workshops, validation, and tool development. Together, the three partners enabled change management at scale.
I'm Nomesh Bolia, and I represent the Indian Institute of Technology, Delhi, specifically the team that worked on the analytical and technical design of Anna Chakra. The question for us was this: how do you represent a grain movement of system of this scale and complexity in analytical form without losing the realities that shape it on the ground? Because in a public system, the hardest part may not be solving the problem itself. It is first understanding what is it that the system truly needs. The World Food Programme brought the perspective of a food systems lens, one that can see what often gets missed in large networks, where logistics begins to break down, where coordination turns into friction. They help frame the problem not as an abstract network, but as a living operating system with real human consequences. That immediately shaped our first principle, that of implementability. Any solution that looks elegant on paper but fails on the ground and at the last mile is futile. This is where the Department of Food and Public Distribution's role was decisive. They understood the system's administrative realities, the constraints that the states operate under, and what it takes to implement the change in a running monthly delivery system. That governance insight was essential in defining not only what could be optimized, but also what would actually work. So the solution could not be developed as a detached technical exercise. It had to be built to survive on ground. And that is the technical journey you will now see in the film.
In a system like this, users don't describe their needs in mathematical language. They describe operational realities. That is why the field to lab to field cycle was critical. Listen in at the field, translate those realities into constraints in the lab, and return for validation. We began with the first round of customized models, built with the right innovations to produce crisp monthly mappings, meaning who supplies whom and in what quantity. In formats users could validate and trust. Once that trust was established and the data became stronger through repeated validation, it became possible to move to subsequent rounds of more sophisticated models, incorporating customized administrative requirements and going beyond mappings. In other words, sophistication grew only as the system itself was ready for it. This is what we call the cascading solution maturity strategy, and it was key to making better models as well as their implementation.
At the core of Anna Chakra was mixed integer linear programming, an optimization approach chosen because the system demanded decision-ready outputs under real-world constraints. The framework introduced modeling innovations to encode the non-negotiables of public distribution, demand satisfaction, capacity limits, policy, operational rules, and solution implementability. It also introduced solution method innovations to make those models solvable and usable at scale. After careful deliberations, QKM, or quantity multiplied by distance, was chosen to measure efficiency objective function. QKM is a practical proxy that captures movement burden at scale and closely reflects both cost and emissions. Only with this, optimization could translate into an actionable monthly movement plan.
As true blue operations research modelers, our first instinct led us to an initial end-to-end optimization model. But when we shared the output with the users, the real issue became clear. The warehouse to FPS mappings would swing month to month, destabilizing the last mile, clearly making it more difficult to implement. The last mile needed predictability. This is where the first modeling innovation emerged through collaboration. We reshaped the optimization architecture through backward sequential optimization run on capacity.
In practice, the supply chain was modeled as two connected legs. Leg 2 is the customer-facing leg, moving grain from state warehouses to fair price shops. Leg 1 sits upstream, supplying those warehouses from storage points like Food Corporation of India. To protect the last mile and keep the solution implementable, Leg 2 had to be solved in a way that remains stable even as monthly quantities shift. So while solving Leg 2, warehouse capacity was treated as fixed supply as opposed to the more commonly used inventory. And Leg 1 was then optimized upstream to feed those decisions. This is what protects last mile execution while improving system-wide efficiency, and why the solution remains workable in real operations month after month.
And then we hit another hurdle, that of scale. It couldn't be solved with one uniform national model because every state supply chain works differently.
So state-specific customization model has to be built and solved at the scale of hundreds of thousands of fair price shops and thousands of warehouses. The variables were simply too many. Solving them would take hours or even days. So we had to engineer the solution to run faster.
Every month, states typically have only a narrow window of 1 to 2 days to finalize movement decisions inside the running system before distribution schedules begin. So a model that can take days to solve is not usable in the real system.
This challenge directly shaped the solution method. Anna Chakra used contextual heuristics to reduce the solution space in line with each state's administrative rules. In states that required intra-district movement, the model restricted choices within district boundaries. Where cross-district movement was allowed, it considered only neighboring districts instead of all possible pairings. This reduced solution times to minutes without compromising on optimality.
As states began using Anna Chakra, one returned with an unexpected requirement. Not only where grains should go, but how it could actually reach. Implementation of their mapping solution had matured and they were ready for routing.
In line with the cascading solution maturity strategy, this required another major addition to Anna Chakra. Vehicle routing here was not a standard routing problem. Trucks had varying capacities. Each fair price shop had a defined demand, and last mile constraints restricted each vehicle sizes could reach which shops. A full MILP routing model at this scale was not solvable. So a staged heuristic approach was built. First, a mapping step grouped fair price shops into workable clusters linked to warehouses. Then came packing, deciding how to load and combine multiple shop demands into full truckloads. But results were not consistently strong, because when mapping came first, trucks often could not be filled close to capacity, forcing additional trips, sometimes beyond what was practically available. Something was still missing.
After months and months of trying to make it work at scale, we finally had the breakthrough. Our solution earlier was mapping and then packing the trucks. We simply asked the opposite question now. What if we pack first? That swap changed everything.
Earlier, the trucks could not pack properly because not all relevant FPs were in the same mapping cluster. Packing first grouped nearby demand into the well-packed feasible truckloads before mapping was finalized.
The problem became smaller and more solvable. And the routes that followed were not only feasible, they were better.
In a system like this, the distances need to be calculated very precisely. For this, Anna Chakra was given access to fetch data from PM Gati Shakti portal, which is Government of India's National Infrastructure and Logistic Planning platform, which provides authenticated geospatial road distance data aligned with current infrastructure. When transport logic is consistent and system-wide, even truckers accept it because it is transparent and not arbitrary.
Finally, Anna Chakra could not remain a one-time output. The networks keeps changing, so the states must be able to re-optimize continuously.
So, the solution became a living decision support system which keeps evolving month after month without ever stopping the lifeline it serves.
Anna Chakra was not just a model that worked in theory. It was a system that made optimization usable within a live public network, turning analytical logic into operational decision-making. But in a system like this, a strong solution is only the beginning. A key challenge still lay ahead. Getting it accepted, adopted, and deployed across stakeholders that could not afford disruption.
Adoption did not happen overnight. It began with one essential pillar: trust. Built step by step through validation, iteration, and responsiveness to state concerns, until states were confident that the solution would strengthen operations without disrupting.
What mattered was not just seeing an optimized output, it was understanding that the solution reflected practical realities on the ground, and the state feedback was integrated, strengthened the system.
In Anna Chakra, change management happened through three pillars, starting at the design stage itself. The system was built to respond to real state concerns. The ability to add nodes, optimize and re-optimize when needed, involve districts in planning, and work with more credible distance inputs. In this sense, solution design was not separate from adoption. It was the first condition that made adoption possible. The second pillar was continuous handholding and engagement. Users needed support at every step, from understanding the outputs to using the tool and building confidence in the results. It could not be a one-time interaction. Often, these engagements lasted for hours. There were repeated workshops, thousands of meetings, constant clarifications, and sustained follow-through across modeling, implementation, hosting, usage, and handover. Adoption here was a process of persistence.
A solution of this nature cannot be simply handed over. It has to be explained, supported, and reviewed until it becomes a part of the system.
The third pillar was monitoring, follow-through, and ownership transfer. The goal was not superficial rollout but sustained use.
Monitoring mattered because adoption had to translate into actual use. It was not enough for the tool to exist. It had to be used meaningfully.
A crucial choice in this journey was ownership transfer. States were encouraged to procure and maintain their own servers, complete security audits, and host the tool within their own systems. It would have been easier for the federal government to retain technical control, but long-term sustainability required states to own Anna Chakra for themselves.
That decision reflected maturity in change management. The aim was not dependency. The aim was sustainable adoption.
Once it became part of the workflow, it no longer felt like an external intervention. It started becoming part of how planning itself could happen.
That is when deployment becomes transformation. When a technical system is no longer seen as an outside solution, but as an inside capability. Anna Chakra did not merely roll out a tool. It began to change how planning could happen within the public distribution system itself. Anna Chakra had a humongous impact on transportation distances, logistics, savings, carbon emissions, and efficiency of grain movement across the system. What it demonstrated was that operations research can work in public systems at full scale. The annual logistics savings of over 2.5 billion rupees and emissions reduction of more than 35% together give the initiative a measurable national footprint.
Earlier, much of the planning depends on manual calculation and experience. With Anna Chakra, decisions became more accurate, easier to see and understand and discuss.
Anna Chakra also achieved in building capacity within the system. Officials became more comfortable in engaging with OR-based planning, leaving behind a lasting legacy of stronger public service and better governance.
The fact that institutions became more comfortable working with this kind of analytical approach is a paradigm shift in governance capability.
பொருள் டயத்துக்கு வந்து சேர்ந்துருது. அதை நாங்கள் அண்ணா சக்கரா திட்டத்தில் எல்லா பொருளும் மக்களுக்கு தரமாக கொடுத்துக்கிட்டு இருக்கோம்.
Ultimately, the value of this transformation goes back to the beneficiaries, the people of India.
मेरा नाम पुष्पा देवी है। मेरा यहाँ पे हर महीने हमें राशन मिलता है। मेरा मेरे परिवार का अच्छा गुजारा हो रहा है और हमारे जैसे कितने भाई बहन लोग हैं सबका अच्छा गुजारा इसी से होता है। हर महीने हमें यहाँ राशन मिलता है।
A stronger planning system contributes to more reliable grain movement, greater stability in food distribution, and a shift that families feel immediately. Earlier, grain would reach closer to the middle of the month, but with Anna Chakra's optimization, it reaches in the first week of the month. That difference strengthens food security in the most direct way, making the public distribution system a more dependable public service for the millions of households who rely on it.
अन्न चक्र के आने के बाद मूवमेंट कुशल और किफायती हो गया है। लोगों तक बहुत आसानी से जो है सो अन्न ये फूड ग्रेन पहुंच रहा है।
Anna Chakra also carries significance beyond India.
To us, this epitomizes how OR should be applied, how OR can have both theory as well as work in messy, wicked problems which make a difference.
The initiative has also received significant recognition. It was acknowledged in the Economic Survey of India 2025-26 for its technology-driven approach to improved governance, presented by the Finance Minister. It has also received wider institutional acknowledgement as one of the first nationwide OR-based implementations in a public system. This recognition was further strengthened through formal awards and technical validation, including the Indian Institute of Management CDSA Operational Research Society of India Excellence in Management Science and Analytics Practice Award 2026 and the Governance Now Digital Transformation Award 2026.
Anachakra was created based on field realities, lived experiences, and integrated in India's existing infrastructure and systems. The applicability of this solution goes beyond India, and it's now gaining global interest. The tool is being piloted in African countries and shared with Nepal, Thailand, Sri Lanka, and Indonesia. There's also increasing interest within the World Food Programme itself in using similar approaches for its global operations. Anachakra contributes to the Sustainable Development Goals, zero hunger, and no poverty by ensuring a more reliable last mile delivery to the people most in need. The values that underpin this initiative, efficiency, innovation, justice, transparency, and strong institutions are key.
Anna Chakra is not only a success story within one supply chain, it is a portable model for strengthening large public systems and for countries seeking to improve logistics and service delivery through analytics. Built on a robust operation research foundation, it is designed to be adaptable not only across India, but in other contexts as well. And that is why Anna Chakra stands not only as a story of measurable impact, but as a story of enduring possibility.
To sum up, Anna Chakra's impact is measurable in numbers and equally visible in the capabilities it has built within the system. And together, these outcomes align strongly with the Sustainable Development Goals. Herein lies a larger question. What becomes possible when analytical intelligence, institutional trust, and public purpose come together in service of a national lifeline?
For us, this was always about strengthening the system in a way that remained accountable to the enormous responsibility it carries.
This effort is successful because of the unique strengths that each partner has brought to the table. The trust and the collaboration were absolutely vital. It's a delight to see diverse institutions pull together like this for the greater good in such a seamless way.
What has been done in India can be done in all developing countries of the world. It can be done in Africa, it can be done in Latin America. This is OR to make a difference in the world, and we are proud for this application of OR, which will impact people's lives.
Data, modeling, and decision support systems matter most when they strengthen public service, when they help institutions work better, resources move more wisely, and citizens experience a more reliable system in their everyday lives. Anna Chakra therefore stands as a blueprint for the world and for the wider application of operations research in governance and development. It shows that even the most complex systems can be transformed if they are approached with rigor, humility, partnership, and a commitment to making the world a better place. Today, no grain in India's public distribution system is untouched by Anna Chakra. When a nation's lifeline is reimagined scientifically, collaboratively, and in service of people, optimization becomes more than efficiency. It becomes a legacy.
What you've just seen is not only a story of optimization, but about transformation of a nation's food security lifeline. It is a reminder of what becomes possible when public purpose is matched with scientific rigor and when institutions work together to strengthen a running lifeline without disrupting the people who depend on it. Today, a system that ensures food security to nearly 835 million people moves with greater clarity, timeliness, and cost effectiveness. Planning is now more informed and proactive. Decisions are no longer fragmented but connected. Public systems are more transparent and accountable. And public funds are now utilized more judiciously. This has led to measurable gains, significant cost savings of 2.5 billion Indian rupees or around $27 million, which translates to nearly 21% reduction in transportation costs. I repeat, 21% reduction in transportation costs, and also a reduction in the carbon emissions by 35%. At the same time, there are equally important invisible outcomes: stronger coordination, greater accountability, and confidence across every level of the system. What has been built here is a living capability, a framework developed, tested, perfected, and proven in India, and one that is now relevant far beyond it, because the challenge of feeding people efficiently, reliably, and with dignity is universal. This is not just a one-time solution. It is now a standard, developed, tested, and scaled in India, but available for the world. On behalf of the Government of India, I thank Informs and the France Edelman Award for acknowledging this work and for recognizing that operation research can play a vital role in strengthening public service worldwide. Thank you very much.